All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar with me, Deri, from Honeycomb Consulting Skills Training, and I'm super excited to welcome Maurizio Cuna here, all the way from Sydney, dialing in from the other side of the world, the beauty of technology. Maurizio, how are you doing tonight your time, obviously?
I'm good, Deri. Thank you. Thanks for having. Yes, it's 9 p.m. in Sydney, so this is the last call of the day for me. Very good to meet you and everyone that connected.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you here. And Maurizio was telling me he's had a busy day, so we need loads of questions coming in from everybody to keep him energized. And the reason that I wanted you to join me today was we've been kind of following each other, connected for a few years now, mostly initially through Twitter before it was X, and now X, and then into LinkedIn. And we've spoken a few times over the years. And what I love your philosophy around consulting. And you've been in the industry for a long time, and you've worked in a lot of different places, but you bring this kind of idea around people being at the center of it that I really love. And Maurizio wrote this awesome book, Beyond Slides. There you go, Maurizio Cuna. Stand out, become irreplaceable, and win big in consulting. Really recommend it if you're interested in what it really takes to be great at consulting. And I'm going to today, we're not going to have any slides today. We're going beyond slides. We're just going to have a conversation. If you can someone jump in the comments, just confirm that you can see and hear me well, and that the tech's all working fine. And get used to where that comment button is, because I really want you to ask some questions as we go through today. So Maurizio, I'm just going to ask you to just give a little bit of your background first, like where your consulting experience. Thank you, Laura, for confirming you can hear us. That's awesome. Your consulting experience and how you've got to this place today, and particularly kind of what inspired you to write the book, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, perfect. I can do that. How long do we have, Deri? So I'll try to make it
5 minutes or so. No rush.
No, I'll try to make it quick. So I'm always not very good at hide my origins, because my accent never changed, despite the fact that I moved around the world a few times. So originally I'm from Italy. So I was born and raised in the south of Italy. A region of origin is called Puglia, which is in the southeast. So it's really the heel of the Italian boot. So I was born there. I studied in Padua. So my university was there. She's near in Venice. And then I started my career with Accenture in Milan. From Milan, then I moved to the UK, spent a few years in London, various parts of London, beautiful city. Spent some time in the US, and then a couple of years in Hong Kong, so in Asia. Intense experience. And then for the past 10 years, I've been in Australia. So yeah, 20 years in consulting, obviously I had to learn something, otherwise you don't last for that long. It wasn't always easy and smooth sailing, but it's I think it's an experience that I truly enjoy over the past 2 decades, and I keep enjoying now. And the reason why I wrote the book, multiple reasons actually. There was a trigger which was more on the personal side. So when my dad passed away, he wrote a book, and I realized that he wrote this book for 30 years, like literally. Since I was a kid, I always knew that he was writing this book, but he never published it. And he only got around to publish it basically like a couple of months before passing away. And I thought, wow, I really didn't realize until the very last moment that he had never published the book. And so I thought, as an avid reader, I was always a big reader in my life. And when you read a lot, you always think, one day I'll write one. So I thought maybe I should start writing. And the topic, the subject, I guess, that would come more natural to me is about my profession, is about something that I do every day. And I think the trigger was also a bit on the selfish side, because obviously having built teams and managing people and dealing with people every day, I sort of get a lot of the same questions, right? Talking to my colleagues and to my team members. And so I thought, okay, let me write in a book, in a structured way, what I think about those questions. And so hopefully these answers can help other people as well. And of course, with the newsletter, I get to talk a lot with other consultants all around the world. And so I start getting these questions, and that's how it started. And then slowly, because obviously my job gets busy, so I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to writing, which is my hobby and my passion. It took me a couple of years to finish the book, but I'm happy with the result now, and I hope that people enjoy it.
And I'm super impressed that you've written it. I mean, you're a partner, right, in a big, busy consulting practice, and you're a dad, and you've managed to find the time to write an excellent book and get it published. And it's basically, you've taken away most of my excuses for why I haven't written a book myself. Well, I'm writing a book at the moment, but it's hard to find the time. But I'm really glad that you did, and one of the things, and I encourage everybody on here to follow Maurizio, and we'll talk a bit at the end about where to follow him, but on X, on his Substack, and on LinkedIn, because there really aren't many partners in big consulting firms out there who are sharing the experience of being a partner and the experience of 20 years in the industry. And if you care about learning about this, then I really encourage you to follow Maurizio. One of the things that grabbed me in the book, and literally it's on page 2. In fact, I'm going to read a little passage here, and because this really resonated with me, and I wonder if it'll resonate with other people. You can be the best number cruncher in the room, but if you cannot read the politics swirling around a boardroom, if you cannot sense when a client is bullshitting you, or if you cannot disarm an executive with a well-timed joke, you will hit a ceiling so hard it will leave a dent. Consulting is a people business. No, really, not the fake people business nonsense you read on corporate mission statements. Consulting actually runs on human psychology, egos, and trust. You might think you're an analytical assassin slicing through inefficiencies with your spreadsheet katana. However, at some point, you'll find yourself in a room with an executive who's paying you $500 an hour to validate what his gut has already told him. Welcome to the actual job. And that really resonated with me for a long time now. Anyone on here who's been through our core consulting skills training will be familiar with our definition of consulting, which is that consultants solve difficult problems and build trust so people can take action with confidence. And we always focus in on that word people in the heart of it, because you can build the best spreadsheet in the world. My background, my consulting background was in analytical consulting and modeling and building spreadsheets and coming up with fancy insights. And the number of times I, as a junior, was in the room and presented something, and my partners and then clients would go, I don't get it. It doesn't resonate. And then you realize, actually, if I don't get beyond the spreadsheet, beyond the slides, then I'm dead in the water. So clearly that theme has kind of come through in your career for you. But I was just wondering, like, what are the elements of that, the elements of those human skills that you've found to be most important as you've gone through your career?
Yes. So first of all, I want to actually answer the first question. Maybe you didn't ask it as a question, but this is something that I constantly get. Right? When I say I wrote a book, people tell me, "Oh, where did you find the time?" And so I want to encourage people to actually, think through. It's not that hard. First of all, it takes a long of elapsed time. Obviously, I think I always say, if I was doing this full time, it wouldn't take me 2 years to write a book. It probably take me like 5 to 6 months. But because obviously I only do it when I've got some free time, then it takes me a lot of elapsed time, but it's here and there. Now, the other point is, naturally, I like to write. So writing is a hobby for me, essentially. So I don't watch Netflix, I don't watch movies, I don't really do, drinking sessions and all of that. So the first thing I do every day is writing. So when I wake up like 5, 6 a.m., I like to write at least an hour a day. And so if people take this as a habit, 1 hour, even 1 hour a day, it's like 7 hours writing a week. So if you multiply this over the course of a year, maybe 2 years, you really see that it's not really that hard. It's a matter of, I think, enjoying. So if it's something that you enjoy, it comes easier. And I think actually it becomes also helpful for the profession. I think writing well means also thinking well. So clear thinking comes with writing. So the more you write down your thoughts, the more you write down what you think, how you think about certain subjects. I think also your perspective on that topic becomes crispier, and therefore you can explain even better. And so I always encourage people to try consistently for some time to write and see the difference. You will notice a difference in how you communicate, in how you frame a problem, in how you think. So if you take it as a small exercise,
it gives you that you develop the frameworks, right? You develop the language around it, and it doesn't have to be a book. Like you can write that in a LinkedIn post or an X post, or you can write a newsletter. And if you want to be known for being an expert in something, then you've got to write about it. Like that's actually not optional, really, if you want to be known as an expert. But even if you want to just develop your own thinking, you can write for yourself. I think that's great advice.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you write, the more you refine the thinking about a specific subject. And people. Let's go there. Sorry, I'm not answering your second question, but I will answer it. But,
we're going to come back to that. Don't worry.
We're going to come back. People, for example, dislike PowerPoints. Like now there is this huge trend of saying, "Oh, PowerPoint is useless." But is it really that useless? So I know there is this big story of Jeff Bezos. I'm sure you or maybe other in the audience.
The memos.
Correct. He was like, he said, I don't like PowerPoint. I'm not going to use PowerPoint. You come in with 7 pages written. People should read it. And so some people have told me, even Jeff Bezos, he didn't like PowerPoint. He didn't use it. But my answer to them would be, yes, but you are not Jeff Bezos. And there is a very high probability that your PowerPoint won't be read by the Amazon board, right? So I think PowerPoint is still very valuable. And if you use it in the right way, it's still a very, very good tool for you to, give your point across. So PowerPoint is writing. So if you use it as a way also to crystallize your thinking, PowerPoint can be very, very helpful as well. But let's go beyond PowerPoint, right? Beyond slides. So going back to your question, which is, I guess the key skills, right? That
and like what are the human skills that you found to be important, and why have they been important for you?
So human skills, I think number one is try and develop a trust with your clients, but also with your colleagues. I think my style is one of creating connection with my team members, with my colleagues, and also with my clients. So I've got clients that I've been working with for 10 years. I mean, that's not I think it's not standard, right, in the industry. It doesn't happen very often. Normally, at least consulting has this tendency to sometimes become transactional, right? You pay me, I do the work, I leave, I'll never see you again. But instead, if you try and develop a relationship with a client and you start trusting each other, you will see that the client will call you back again. Because when they face a problem, when they believe you are going to help them, they will call you again. And so this has happened several times in my career, even across continents. It would be interesting. I had people that I work with in Europe that, for example, I work with in Australia as well, because people move around, people have connections. So
how do you go about kind of building that connection? Like, what are your behaviors that enable you to build that connection?
So first of all, I like to talk, but I also like to listen. So I think it's very important, in my view, to get the other people to express themselves. So try to understand what they believe in, what they want to achieve, what are the personal goals. Sometimes business goals are connected to personal goals, sometimes they're not. So try to understand what they want to achieve and see how you can help them. I think another thing that I do, which is probably, I don't want to say rare, but maybe less common, is I try to genuinely help in ways that I can, even that they're not immediately profitable. Let's call it that way.
Yeah.
So if I have the opportunity to connect one of my team members, one of my clients with some other connections or with other people that I know they can be helpful to them, I do it. And even if there is no any immediate sort of benefit for me, because I want to help, and because I believe in reciprocation. Like if I do something good for them, 90% of the time, something good is coming back, even if it's not immediate.
Is that a core belief that you just hold in the world? Like you put good stuff out there, it's going to come back.
Yes. I start with trust. I have maybe one or two. I give one of two opportunities. So if this trust is broken, then I got back to my Southern Italian roots, and it's done. But I try to start with trust. I believe that people want to do their best. Sometimes, of course, that's not the case. But after 20 years, you get to develop that.
Sorry, yeah. Do you think for you that does come from your Italian roots? And I've done a little bit of work years ago with Bain teams from Bain Italy when I was at Bain, and work in the consumer products industry in Italy as well. And culturally, it is so different to the UK in so many different ways, like very oriented around family businesses and family connections and trust. Do you think that like your Southern Italian upbringing has led you to kind of default to trust-based relationships in a way that maybe some of your colleagues over the years haven't had that?
Yes, I think there is an element of style that comes from how I grew up. I also must say that my style 20 years ago is very different from my style now. Maybe, you get older, maturity, different experiences. Of course, when I moved to the UK, the first year or 2 years were, shocking in a way, right? It's like,
well, you didn't even
very
speak
different.
English, right, when you first moved to the UK?
yeah, I couldn't speak English. Yes. So some people might say that I still can't, but I have improved over the time. So you need to learn also how different cultures do business. When I was working in Italy, I would only work with other Italian people, and of course, in Italy, you do business in a certain way, which I also discuss in the book. Right, there are certain features that only work in Italy, and other things that only work in the UK. So you get to learn this. And of course, as in everything, the more reps you put in, the more things you see, the more patterns you discover, you are able to identify. A lot of our work, in my opinion, Deri, it's pattern matching. So it's another one of those. It's one of those. Okay, I've done this before. That's how I solved that. It's never exactly the same process, but you get to develop an instinct, right, for problem solving.
Yeah, and actually, I think if you start to think it is exactly the same, that's when you get yourself in trouble, and that's where the criticisms of just a cookie cutter solution, like McKinsey take the file off the shelf and do exactly the same thing for every industry, you get in trouble there. Like, you've got to spot the pattern and then adjust them for the particular context. In the same way as you're talking about adjusting your style across different countries and cultures is really important. You can't build trust in the same way in every different context.
Yes, so that's the curse of expertise, right? I think when you think you are an expert and you think you are such an expert that you don't even need to think how to solve a specific problem, then I think then you can run into troubles, because especially in our environment, when you deal with projects that are very complex, it's very rare, right, that two problems present themselves in the exact same ways and you can solve it in following the exact same process. So it's pattern matching. You match the pattern, so you identify the pattern, but then every step of the process is slightly different. And with time, it becomes easier, of course, you have a bigger arsenal of patterns.
So if you work at the kind of big complex project end of consulting, right? You've got big clients, big projects, teams of like even up to 100 people maybe. How do you think about like enabling the whole team to build trust? Like, you've got so many different client stakeholders, so many different members of the team. You personally could have dozens of people that you're going out trying to build connection with. Like, that could very quickly get overwhelming if you were trying to do that systematically. How do you think about your own activity around that and then enabling the team to build as well?
So I think, first of all, even when you deal with, let's say, a team of 100 people, which has happened to me, you in this sort of projects, you have a structure, right? So you don't deal daily with 100 people. So you might have some people, maybe 5, 6 of them, that you have a closer interactions with, and then they have people reported to them, etc. So the classic pyramid. There are cases and there are opportunities to speak to the broad team, so even to 100 people. And in those occasions, let's say a town hall, let's say all hands, you need to be able to project yourself in the way that you want these people to see you. But I think the bigger effort is done when you talk with your direct reports. So with them, you set the style. With them, you get to show yourself in full. With them, you get to basically describe, hey, this is how I operate. This is how I think you should operate. I don't really dictate to my team members how they should operate, but I'm very clear that this is my style. If you want to follow my style, this is what I would do. Every person is different, and actually, for some people, it's even counterproductive to follow my style, because they just don't have it. They have a different way, right, of approaching a problem or even talking to people. And so everybody I believe, should develop their own style. But there are certain cornerstones, there are certain principles that I think everyone should follow. And if I say, I like to trust this guy, I like to trust this person first, this is something that I communicate very, very upfront to my team members.
Assume trust first. Yeah. And just for people watching us, in about 15 minutes, we're going to go and be taking questions from the audience. So if you've got questions that are bubbling up or things you'd like to learn more about, please stick them in a comment down here, and then we can bring the question up on screen and we'll talk about it. Just a pre-warning: get thinking and get your comments coming in. We'd love to answer as many questions as we can. I was just Maurizio, I was just going to pick up on that point, which I've been noodling with as well. Like you've clearly got a certain kind of natural style here, and one of the kind of presenting archetypes of a lot of consultants that we come across is the kind of analytical introvert. And what I've noticed broadly post-COVID, when everybody went virtual, is a lot of those people didn't come back from being virtual because they felt much more comfortable focusing on their own work on their own screens, and the hybrid working model that we all operate under now created a little bit of an excuse for them to not go out and be on client sites so much. And one of the questions that often comes up with the people that we're training is, how do I build connection with people where I'm just not the type of person that is going to go up to someone and say, oh, should we go grab a coffee or have lunch? I've got so much fear around that I find it really difficult. And often clients, and if you're working with like particularly technical or introverted clients, often it's the same dynamic for them. They don't really want to do that. Like, how do you coach people who are more of that kind of profile to still build trust with people?
Yes. So let's talk about analytical introverts, right? Which actually is a perfect audience for the book. I wrote the book with these people in mind because, and I have this conversation at least once a week with some of my team members. My point is, for an analytical introvert to actually work on their own soft skills side, they need to understand the benefit that they're going to get out of this. So I work a lot on dissecting the benefit that they're going to get. Because at least in my experience, I think that when you are very strong technically, when you have a very solid domain knowledge, I think a lot of people tend to believe that this is enough. That's all they have to do, and the knowledge will carry them forever. And instead, I strongly believe that this is not the case. I strongly believe that at some point in your career, you will meet somebody that is as strong as you, that is technically as sound as you, that has the same knowledge as you, but it also has something else. And inevitably, this other person will overtake you. It's not a race, but let's try to, in a figurative way, will get ahead of you. And then these people will cry and say, oh, how is it possible? I'm so good here, I'm so good there. Why this guy? And I have to explain that also this other person is as good as you, as strong as you, but they also do something else. So I work a lot on the why. Why it's important for you to not just focus on hard skills. Hard skills is a table stakes. So you must be good at something. Otherwise, we are not even, I'm not even talking to you. You must be good, but that's not enough. So you need to focus also on creating that additional set of skills, which for some reason are known as soft skills, although in my opinion are very hard to build, very hard to master, very hard to practice. So they are everything but soft. But anyway, they're called soft skills. So you need to focus on those, focus on how you communicate, how you connect with clients. You read that quote from my book, and I believe in that, right? How do you break the ice in a tense conversation, maybe with a joke, right? How do you do that? How do you actually attract attention from your audience with a joke? I mean, I use humor a lot. Again, this is my style. It maybe comes natural to me because of whatever reason. But other people and other personalities might have something different. And so I always focus a lot on understanding yourself first. So do a bit of an introspective work to understand where your strengths are and use them. Use your strengths. If this is how you like to operate, use it. Use it in a way that strategically and over the long term can help you. And I mean, I've done a lot of this work on me. 20 years ago, I was very impulsive. I was, I probably spoke much more than what I speak now in meetings. While now I understand maybe, there is no benefit in me saying any sentence here. Just shut up and let them talk. So there is a lot of these small lessons that you learn, but you need to structurally, in a structured way, think about it. I don't know if this was the question. I forgot, but we can.
No. That's so what you're bringing to mind is something that we talk about quite often in our sales training space, where we say to people, like, if you agree that it's part of your job now or in the future to generate consulting revenue in some way, like that, if you buy into that, then you've got to do something that's going to lead to generating revenue in the future. And if you feel like, well, I'm not the natural extrovert people person, I hate going to networking events, I hate going to conferencing, like I feel really uncomfortable in those situations, that's completely fine, because there are lots of other options that you've got, but you've got to pick an option. You've got to pick something. And it's the same on the delivery side. If you want to be a brilliant client delivery partner who can facilitate a workshop of senior people who don't agree with each other and get them to take a decision and move forward and take action, like if that's the job that you want to do, you've got to get good at it in some way. And that's the kind of, in a way, you're kind of talking about the activation energy, the motivation and the incentive to actually lean into this stuff. And then I totally agree that, like, starting with self-awareness is so important on these. And I also agree, soft skills, I don't like the term, but like that self-awareness that then gives you the foundation to think, what are my strengths and what are the bits that that I'm a bit scared of, that I need to lean into and step into.
And that requires, of course, introspection, right? Requires self-awareness. I think it requires leaning into feedback as well. I even now I do it. What do you think? What's happening? How did I do it here? What can I improve? I generally ask this, right? I don't have to agree with the feedback. So with the feedback, you have to be satisfied also. This is one of my mentors told me this, right? I can give you feedback, but you need to be satisfied with the feedback, which means you don't have to agree. You have to evaluate. You have to decide if you want to take it or not, but you have to be satisfied with it, and then you decide how to use it for your improvement.
Yeah, it's treat it as data, and then choose how you use that data. Yeah. So we've got, like, there's some practical steps emerging here, and I'm keen to kind of get to a set of practical things that people, particularly earlier on in their career, can start to think about to accelerate some of these things. Because, like, building the introspection and building self-awareness and developing these skills takes a long time. Like, there's no real shortcuts beyond deliberate practice where you can move a little bit faster, but you can't just turn this on overnight. So, like, in terms of practical steps, things we've talked about are understanding your motivation to do this, to lean into some of these more difficult things. There's introspection and self-awareness to identify what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and asking for feedback to get data on those things. What else is in the kind of toolkit of practical actions that people can take to get better at these things?
We touched upon the benefits of writing before. I think, again, I'm a big supporter of writing. I think wake up the morning, even when you are commuting to the office, take your phone and write. Think through a problem that you're facing, but write it down and you will see that you can't really bullshit yourself, right, when you're writing, because you immediately see, oh no, this is not true. I need to
I've
revisit
just tied
this.
myself up in knots with words in a few sentences, and it doesn't make sense. Yeah,
exactly. Another suggestion probably would be to like read also about stuff that are adjacent to the work that you do. So I believe a lot in cross-pollination of ideas. You're reading about history, you're reading about philosophy, you're reading about physics. And I think the ideas that you can have when you're reading about subjects that do not necessarily tightly link, right, to what you do every day, can spark new creative ideas, new creative connections that you can use in your day-to-day professional life. Like you can use it to make a metaphor that maybe it clarifies things for a client. You can use it in a presentation. I think it creates a point of differentiation. So there is a lot of talks about how you differentiate yourself, right? And now we are going into the age of AI, where basically we will all become useless and we'll all lose our job and all that jazz that people keep repeating.
well,
So how
AI
do
is
you
the death of consulting, isn't it? That's what I keep
everything
saying.
that of everything we're all dead because of AI. But how are you going to differentiate yourself? So my view is you have these tools, you have these very powerful tools, but you have it, I have it, that other guy has it, the other consultant has it. So we all have access to the same tools. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? So find that angle that makes you unique. I mean, we're never really unique, but makes you different from everyone else. What is it? How are you gonna find it? Again, this is a work on yourself. So the reason why actually, sorry, I go back for a second to the book. In the book, at the end of each chapter, I created 3 exercises, right? I put that 3 exercises. So I end up with 39 exercises in the book. And 39 exercises, it might sound like a lot, right? People think, oh, well, now I'm reading a book, I need to do the exercises. But my point is, even if you do 1 exercise a week, like by the end of the year, if you put into practice, right, what is recommended, what is suggested at the end of each chapter, you will become a completely different person. There is no way you will be the same person that you were like a year before. There is no way. I cannot tell you how you would have matured, you would have evolved or changed, but there is no way you'll be the same person. And so I really believe in the power of repetitions. Do the exercises, do the practice, think about it, improve at every iteration.
That compounding effect over the years is one of the biggest things that I've learned. I mean, we're both 20 odd years into consulting careers and still learning all the time. But the compounding of these habits that you keep doing, and they, if people work through the exercises in your book and they start doing things differently, and then they start doing those things consistently, and then they build on them, you can have a completely different perspective on the world in a year's time, which is kind of crazy, really. And that might feel like a long time, but it's also no time at all in the space of your career.
No, it's nothing. 1 year is nothing. In a space of a career that you hope will last for 30, 40 years, 1 year is nothing. I mean, I spent 5 years at university. So.
I got just over 7 years at university. So
there you go.
Guys watching, I can see there's loads of you in here watching, listening to us. We do want to take some questions. We want to answer your questions. So please use the comments, pop in questions into the comments, and let us know how we can make this specific and real for you, and answer some of those questions. With the piece around reading and joining the dots and connecting and things, like there's an angle there which is around bringing novel ideas to clients, and one of the ways that helps, in my judgment, is that they then are thinking about their context, problem, opportunity, whatever it is that you're working with them. They're thinking about that in a different way, and you can be really valuable to them. Are there benefits in your view, just in terms of like how you're able to communicate with people? Like you've talked a bit about structure, you've talked a bit about using metaphor. Like what are the other benefits that come from reading and writing a lot around the edges of things?
Right. So first of all, let me start with describing my process for reading and writing, because I think this could be very practical for people. They can take inspiration, they can take ideas, maybe modify based on the habits, but it's very simple. So I have a reader called Readwise Reader. So I use Readwise. Readwise, are you familiar with Readwise, the app?
Vaguely, not super familiar. So yeah, if you explain a little.
Yeah, so Readwise started as an app that would surface back quotes from wherever you have saved. So you read a book, you save some quotes, and then they would surface back to you. So they're based on this idea of spaced repetition, which is essentially the only way you can learn, through spaced repetition, when topics are brought back to you in a repetitive way over time. And then what they realized is that that market would be very small, so they created a very, very good reader. So through this reader, everything that you find online, I just send it to the Readwise reader. And so during my focus time for reading, I would just go through the articles, books, videos, tweets, whatever, and I would read. So when I highlight stuff from Reader, this is integrated with Obsidian. Obsidian is essentially a big database, markdown files. Yeah. So everything goes in Obsidian, and in Obsidian, I have the chance to search, right, for stuff. So everything that I have ever read in my life, or most of it, it's stored in my Obsidian database. I can search and things come up. In Obsidian, I also write. So everything that comes to my mind, I jot it down, I write there. And so over time, you have this huge library of thoughts and ideas that you have developed, right, over the years. And therefore, things that you have explored maybe 5 years ago and you have never touched since can become useful 5 years later. And so how I use this is by telling a lot of stories. So I like to tell stories. I think it's very helpful for people. People, I think, follow you better if you lead through a story rather than simple numbers or data or graphs and charts. So I tell a lot of stories, and I like stories that are less known. Now, again, my style, because I come from Italy and I studied Greek and I studied Latin and I like Roman literature and all of that, I always try to bring back some of those stories from the Greek mythology, the Iliad, the Odyssey, or the Italian literature, all of that, which I think is, again, it comes natural to me. I like it, but it's very peculiar. I don't see many people doing that.
But I don't think we're not suggesting that people need to go out and develop the same knowledge base that you've got, right? But the point is, develop a knowledge base, an area of expertise, a point of differentiation that makes you stand out. There's a set of tools that you can use.
That's right. It doesn't have to be this way. Yeah.
We've got a few questions coming in now, so thank you, question askers. We'll turn to those for the last kind of 15 minutes or so. So Esme has two questions, so I'm going to take her first one, and then we'll come back to the second one after we've covered the others. But interested to hear more discussion on the point around what it takes to get on the projects you want to work on. So if you're junior to middle of your career, building that kind of connection internally, like what does it take to actually get on the projects you want to work on?
Yeah, so I tell this story in the book that happened to me, right? So I was in the UK, actually. I was on a project in Wimbledon. Was working there for almost 2 years, I think. And I had this idea that one of the streams of the project was going to go dead, basically, because the guy that was running this stream was completely on the wrong path. But I was like 2-3 years in my career, so I was relatively junior, and this guy was 30 years in his career. So how do you even surface something like this? So during a lunch, I sort of told my boss at the time, look, I think this is the wrong approach, should be this way. I prepared some slides, I presented to him, he brought some other person in there. So they sort of were interested. And like 2 weeks later, I ended up presenting these findings to like 10 people, to basically the whole executive leadership of the program. And so through there, people started to know, this guy is good, this guy is smart, he has good ideas, etc. And through that, after that engagement, I was called to the project in Hong Kong, essentially, which was for many ways the project that really defined then my career at that point. So that's one way. So try to be helpful in a way that is not forced, like casually drop your comment during lunch. It was a sushi lunch that time. So try to do it in a way that is not forced. Don't set up one-on-ones every day with your boss for 3 years. It's not going to work. Don't do it. Don't do it this way. But try to present your point of view in a way that is interesting and in a way that can help your manager, your boss, your leader, because at the end of the day, they want to be helped as well, right? So that would be probably my.
I think the layer even before that is, before you've got a point of view, is like just show a real interest in that particular domain. Like if you've got a particular type of client you want to work with, a particular type of problem you want to work on, just show a real interest in that. And that can be in conversation, dropping in nuggets, like you say. It could be starting to write about some of this stuff. It could be just asking lots of questions, like bringing a lot of curiosity whenever those topics come up. The other kind of practical tip on that, before we move on to another question, was when I started at Bain, there was a senior partner there, a guy called Jimmy Allen, who again is a great follow on LinkedIn. He's just started sharing, like he's kind of stepped back a little bit from Bain now, and he started sharing loads of his tips from nearly 40 years at Bain. And he had this phrase of know what's on the back of your t-shirt, which is all about understanding what your reputation is internally. And if you want to get onto the projects that you want to work on, understanding how people see you internally in terms of your capability, in terms of your areas of interest, and building those relationships is really important as well. All right, I'm going to move on to a question from Gareth, which I think is super interesting. So he's essentially saying there's broadly kind of two ways that you can build trust. You've got your formal governance structures like project status updates, steercos, one-to-one client meetings, all of these structured formal environments. And then you've got grabbing coffees, the water cooler conversations, the one-to-one catch-ups, the moments where you're walking to and from meetings, all of those informal interactions. Like, do you see a difference or a relative importance of the formal versus informal settings when it comes to influencing and building trust?
So I think this comes down to style. What is your personal inclination? Why do I say that? Is because, for example, I think I am personally very effective in one-on-ones, But I know people that work with me that completely dislike one-on-ones, and they tell me I am not very good. I don't like to go into one-on-ones. I don't know what to say, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
I think one-on-ones are important because they help you build connection beyond the professional side. Like you can talk a bit more free. Things are said in one-on-ones that perhaps are not said in a formal meeting in front of other people. But I also think in the formal setting, in the formal sessions, those are the chances for you to establish credibility professionally. So you have to show in those sessions that you know what you're talking about, that you are there to help them, that you show flexibility, and that you can manage the entire room, not just one person, but the entire room. And then in the one-on-ones, you probably use them to align individually. So another thing that, again, I discuss in the book is when you go into a big meeting, the pre-meeting is as important as the meeting. So already all the people that are in that room should be already be warmed up by you. So you already know what this guy wants, what this other person wants, what this other person wants, and they already know what you are going to say. So there are no surprises in the meetings. And people already know what to expect. When problems happen is because surprises come in these big meetings. For example, you haven't socialized that now you're going to show the status is red, or you are going to raise an issue in this meeting and nobody knew. A big mistake, right? Big mistake that with experience you learn to avoid. Just pre-warn these people, let them know that what's coming, and ensure that you already have an answer how to address the likely issues that are going to be raised.
Yeah, I think those formal settings, particularly formal group settings, present a trust risk in terms of your individual trust, because if you accidentally throw someone under the bus because you haven't understood the political environment, you haven't understood what they're personally motivated by, you haven't understood how other people will perceive a data point that you put on screen, you can cause all kinds of problems. So those one-to-ones are really important for understanding the politics and the personal information and all of that. It's beyond credibility and authority in the formal settings. It's hard to really build trust, but it's really easy to destroy it, in my experience.
Break it. Yes.
All right, we're gonna keep going on the questions that are coming in. This is changing tack a little bit from Donna. Great to see you here, Donna. Love the tip on spaced repetition as a way to embed learning from your reading. I'd love to write a book one day. How did you, Maurizio, think about organizing the structure of your book whilst writing over that kind of 2-year period and to keep it all going? And then also, which other authors inspire you in your writing?
Right. So let me start with number 2. Probably my favorite author is Nassim Taleb, which most people would know for The Black Swan. But he wrote also Food by Randomness, Anti-Fragile, and a few others. So I like the style. I like what he talks about. I think Food by Randomness, when I first read it, was a book that I thought it made sense. And I was ashamed that I never thought about life and and everything else that way. So I really encourage everyone to read and understand the Food by Randomness, because reading a book is not the same as understanding it. So that's one. Now the first part on how I organized the book. So actually the book started as a long tweet first. So I wrote a long tweet one day on what are the things that you should do to sort of future-proof and have a long career. And I came up with maybe, I don't know, 11, 12 things. I can't remember now. And that tweet went very well. I'm like, okay, then people must be interested in this sort of stuff. And so I started on Obsidian. I write down the structure. I created for each of these chapter a sort of a a backbone of what I would describe in each chapter. And then with time, I probably add one or two of these chapters. And then I basically took it as a project, right? So I said, I want to be able to publish a book within probably 2 years. And then I treat it as a project. I used an editor. A guy from India actually reached out at some point, and he said, "Oh, I'd like to help," because I said I'm writing a book. He said, "I'd like to help you editing this book. I'd like to work with you." So yeah, absolutely. So he gave me some very good idea, some very good additions. He gave me his perspective as a early career consultant, or somebody that wanted to become a consultant. So I included that. I used, in terms of tooling, I used Obsidian and Google Docs. I used Grammarly for the grammar. I used ChatGPT. I used the editor, the human editor. And I used a tool called Atticus to eventually put it into a way that would be publishable.
Nice.
And pretty much, yeah, these are the tools I used.
All right, Dana, no excuses. Get writing a book. All right, final question before we wrap up on the hour. So our mutual friend Danilo, question from Maurizio in the context of BD for consulting partners. So love the idea of upside down networking you shared in the book. Maybe you could just, in a couple of words, explain what that is to people that haven't read the book yet. And then can you share personal learnings around using subtlety and adopting a casual approach to connect with high performers?
So the idea of upside down networking is a second chapter of the book. And that's this idea of how most people do networking is they go out, they go to the conference, they go to the event, they go here, they go there, they spend so many hours doing networking, and this is somewhat effective. But there is there is the reverse way of doing networking, which is create that persona, create some interest around you so that these people come to you instead of you going to them. So this can be, of course, orchestrated at different levels. Like, I'm not saying that you have to become sort of this guy that all the CEOs in the world come and knock on your door because they need your advice. But if you scale it down even to your own environment, this approach is perfectly workable. And you can use this approach even for your small consulting practice or whatever you run. Now, in terms of personal learnings using subtlety and other casual approach to connect with that performance, I want to connect to one of the previous questions, right, that I read there, which we didn't have the chance to answer, which was how do you expand your network beyond having coffees with this person or that person? Actually, what I noticed is that when you get close to some of your clients, they naturally want to help you expand your network, because I think it comes from even from a selfish perspective, because they know that you can deliver, they know that you can be helpful, and so automatically, if they introduce you to one of their friends, they know that they will be seen in a good way because they are helping their friends. And so I think it goes there to do what you promise you would do, deliver, do the best that you can for your clients, and trust that they will be able to help you and expand your network as well.
Beautiful. And beautiful point to end our conversation today. I'm sure there's lots more we could talk to. Maybe we do a round two one time. But I've just put in the comments, if you want to find Maurizio on X at the MGMT Consult, or on Substack at the Management Consultant, on LinkedIn under his real name, obviously, or I really recommend the book Beyond Slides. And if you want more from Honeycomb, QR code just above my head there will take you through to our our Substack, free weekly newsletter, our future webinars, etc. All that remains is for me to say a massive thank you, Maurizio, for your time today, and thank you to the dozens of people who were following along with us on various platforms, asking questions. Great conversation. Appreciate it. It's the end of your day, and you're going to hit the sack soon. So thank you very much for joining us from Sydney, and
thank you.
Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you, Deri. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to connecting with all of you. See you.
Thank you, Maurizio.
Ciao. Bye-bye.